Welcome to Trick Posting, episode 1. So today I'm going to be explaining a trick, or rather a clip with a couple of tricks in it. I'm going to be talking terminology and trick names and all that stuff. So if you like that, stick around. I'm going to try to make everything as clear as possible, and to do that, here's a little key. So switch side, or SS, means that I'm doing a right-sided trick. I twist left, so twisting right is my switch side. And then switch SW means that the trick starts backwards and travels backwards, usually off a ledge or like a skier going backwards off a jump. The main two questions I'm going to try to answer today is what is this called and why is it called that? So here is the clip.
Come on. Come on, there we Come on, there we
Cool. I'm going to be giving my analysis as a super reputable movement analyzer. To answer the first question, this is what it's called. Atwistgumbi hyper, switch side complete, switch side skip, switch side offhand, one-handed machine, switch spiral knuckle 3. And my goal for the rest of this video is to explain this absolute mess of jargon and terminology. Starting with the first move, we got to ask the question, is it an Atwistgumbi hyper? So let's watch it. It looks like an Atwistgumbi hyper to me. But is it? Yes. No. It's complicated. So I guess now the question is, if it's not an Atwistgumbi hyper, what else could it be? And to show what else it could be, here are 3 Atwistgumbis. Here is regular Atwistgumbi. It lands in complete. And then we have Atwistgumbi hyper, which finishes twisting left. And finally, Atwistgumbi hyper switch side complete, which ends twisting right. Now that we've seen all 3 of those, which of the 3 is it? It's obviously that one. And here's a comparison to prove it. Now that we've established that the first trick is Atwistgumbi hyper switch side complete, we have right cork alert. Switch side landing stances can switch your side. This sounds really fucking obvious, but it's honestly quite important, because if you can control your body enough, you can land any twisting trick in any switch side landing stance and switch your direction of twisting in the process. And when landing in any switch side landing stance, your next movement must be on your switch side, because switch side stances use the next trick as a reference point. And so here's some examples that I came up with of all 4 of the main switch side stances and some cool ways to use them. So first we have Atwistgumbi hyper, switch side complete, swing, right cork 3. Then Arabian mega, switch side semi, front swing right bio 3. Machine, switch side hyper, wrap full. The asterisk is there because machine always lands in complete. And aerial semi, switch side mega, vanish rise. And note that the wrap full and the vanish rise are the opposite direction as the respective machine and aerial semi, or frisbee semi. Moving on to the next part of the trick, we can put this concept to practice by looking at Atwistgumbi skip machine versus Atwistgumbi hyper switch side complete skip machine. So here's Atwistgumbi skip machine on the normal side, all twisting left. And then we have Atwistgumbi hyper switch side complete skip machine. And you know it is a switch side complete because the skip and the machine are both twisting right. Another thing that's interesting and quite important about switch side stances is that there's no misleg, redirect, or stance change necessary to switch your sides. It is functionally more or less seamless. And here's a comparison of the Atwistgumbi including the transition. Now moving on to the next part of the trick, we have one-handed machine, switch side, offhand, switch spiral knuckle 3. I put the dash there because the move kind of enters like switch side, offhanded, one-handed machine and exits like switch spiral knuckle 360, twisting left, which is kind of weird and I can't really explain that right now. Maybe I will in future videos. So the first part of this is one-handed machine with the offhand. So here's a comparison between the regular and the offhand. Much like cartwheel, the reason that it's the offhand is because it is the one that you put down second. So a one-handed cartwheel, on the left side, your left hand goes down. But if you do an offhanded cartwheel, your right hand would go down. And it's the same for a machine. Alright, now that we've covered the one-handed machine, let's move on to spiral knuckle. So what is spiral knuckle? Spiral knuckle is kind of an obscure tricking trick, which is a B-twist with no flat spin, or as close to no flat spin as you can get functionally. It must be 360 degrees or close, and to accomplish this, you usually travel straight forward or close. So here's a spiral knuckle. So notice that there's pretty much no deviation from the DOM. It's just like a straight line. It doesn't really curve too much. I may have cheated by like 10 degrees or something. So switch spiral knuckle 3 is B twist axis with no flip. Must be 360 degrees or close. Must travel straight backwards or close. So here is a switch spiral knuckle 3. Interestingly, this was much easier to not deviate from the DOM and flat spin a little than the forwards one. Also, I've never done this before. This video gave me this idea, which is pretty cool. I talked a lot about flat spin on the last slide, and I realized that that probably needs some explaining, so let's do that. In tricking, flat spin is rotation around the y-axis measured at the hips. And to show some visual examples of that, here is a B-kick, which has 360 degrees of rotation, all of which is flat spin. So it has 360 degrees of flat spin or close. Nice. And really notice how the hips are kind of the center of where I'm twisting, which is interesting. And then contrary to that, we have a B twist, which has 540 degrees of rotation with 180 degrees of flat spin or close. I tried to make it pretty clear that there's 180 degrees of flat spin. You can kind of look at my hips, like where they start when I take off and where I land. I tried to be close. One other thing I want to mention is that I called it switch spiral knuckle 3 or 360 very intentionally, because I think switch spiral knuckle 7 or 5 or 1 is hella possible. And weirdly, by like adding the 3 to the end of the trick, it actually opens up the door to those other degrees of rotation, whereas not specifying would only mean 360 always. Here's a comparison of both parts of that final trick put together. To recap, here's the trick name in full. I'm going to read it out one more time, but I hope it makes much more sense now and is digestible. Atwistgumbi hyper, switch side complete, switch side skip, switch side offhand one-handed machine, switch spiral knuckle 3. And here's a comparison of all the elements of the trick put together with the actual clip beside it. Cool. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this all made sense. I hope you learned something new. Maybe a new trick name, maybe a new concept, maybe some new ideas. Who knows? If you have any questions about anything I said in this video, definitely comment. I'll try to clear it up. And also, if you have ideas as to what I should talk about next, feel free to comment. Also, these ideas, specifically the switch side stances stuff, are definitely used in other free running lines and tricks. I especially want to shout out to Trevor Kunkel, Trevor Knuckle, my goat, your favorite athlete's favorite athlete. To me, he pioneered a lot of this stuff and really inspired me to start thinking about twisting both ways and how I could implement that into my style. And here we are. Here's a clip of him putting these ideas into practice. I'll put a little annotation. And thank you.